How to Create the Universe, The God Series Book 32, by Mike Hockney. This free audiobook series has been brought to you by the Foundation of Illuministic Guides. Contact the Foundation publicly as soon The Phoenix at tinyurl.com/foundation322. Check our foundation page at tinyurl.com/foundation323, and we have a posting group with many books and resources at tinyurl.com/foundation324. For the complete books that will be covered in this series, see tinyurl.com/Hockney322. Remember, there are many truths within lies and lies within fact. Truth is relative to the observer. The sign of a seeker is the quest for the truth. In that sign you shall conquer. Find the path in your own quest for the Gnostic grail of illumination. Choose wisely. We will be watching you. In a Hockney. Chapter 14, Math-made. Either math is man-made or man is math-made. It's one or the other. Math is eternal because it reflects the eternal truths of reason. There's nothing at all eternal about humanity. The human race is a contingent, temporal species, with no logical necessity. Only humans could be dumb enough to imagine they could make math. What's for sure is that the human attempt to discover what mathematics actually is has been slow, painful, clunky, and error-strewn. Humans have kept imposing their various ideologies and philosophies on mathematics, most especially empiricism and materialism, with disastrous consequences. Only reason and logic can be used to interrogate math. Any assumptions or axioms that have no basis in the principle of sufficient reason will definitely be false and wrong. Mathematical incompleteness and inconsistency are exactly what you get whenever you define math wrongly. When you define it non-ontologically, and without regard to a single, all-controlling master formula, the God equation, the sensory enigma. So, here's a question for you. Why do you believe that what your senses reveal to you is more real and concrete than what your reason reveals to you? What does it say about you, and your thinking and intellectual capacities? What are your sensations made of? Where do they come from? How do they flow? What are they actually revealing to you? How do they exist at all? The more you think about what your sensations actually are, the more bizarre they become. And anything other than concrete. Your sensations exist in your mind. What on earth is a mind? Without mathematics to explain what a mind is, a mind is the most mysterious thing that can possibly be. Since when has science ever got near explaining what a mind is? And how could it ever explain what a mind is? It simply doesn't have any means to do so. It's just a bunch of sensory heuristics and provisional mathematical formulae force-fitted to the latest experimental results. Reason, logic and intellect are nowhere called upon in science. Mathematics is assigned no ontological status. Everything in science is about the simplistic exercise of matching math to sensory patterns. Science is a fundamentally anti-intellectual subject because it has no interest in what math actually is, and no interest in what sensory patterns actually are and how they exist at all. Science has no ontology and no epistemology. It's just a crude, superficial method of matching guesses, hypotheses, to observables. If you imagine that's going to explain ultimate existence to you, you really are daft. The ether. Einstein did nothing at all to disprove the existence of the ether. His arguments merely show that the ether cannot be physical. That does not mean it cannot be non-physical, mental, mathematical. Yet Einstein's case is entirely dependent on the non-existence of the ether. Einstein's theory of relativity falls if the ether exists. You might think that, regarding something so crucial, scientists would have a definitive disproof of the existence of the ether. Not only do they have no such disproof, they actually have theories, never refuted, that support the existence of the ether. That's the trouble with science. It claims to be objective when in fact it's just a subjective philosophy. Einstein is so immensely popular in science not because he's right, but because his theory fits the ideology, the religion, of science. The rival theories are ignored because they don't fit the ideology. The same goes for the de Broglie bomb interpretation of quantum mechanics. It's not ignored because it's wrong, but because it challenges the scientific worldview. It challenges empiricism and materialism. It supports hidden variables. Science is full of theories and ideas that are shunted into the graveyard because they don't fit the scientific meta-paradigm, while all sorts of junk are accepted as true because they do. Science is a game. It has nothing to do with the truth and any pursuit of the truth. It's just a set of speculations, driven by a particular philosophy, but it's not even honest enough to admit that it's just another speculative philosophy. Science differs from mainstream philosophy in only two ways. 1. It uses math, and 2. It rejects the intelligible world in favor of the sensible world. It has no interest in reason and logic, and if these appear at all in science, it's purely because they are imported from mathematics, and not because science has any respect for them. Take away math from science and see if you can find a single trace of reason and logic. The problem of numbers. How do you distinguish the number 1 from the number 1.00001, which is approximately the same number? Well, to guarantee that 1 isn't just a rounded up number, you would have to write 1.000000 to ensure no one confuses this with 1.00001. But then we have the same problem again with respect to 1.00000000001. To make 1 different from all the numbers that are extremely close to it, but not actually it, we have to give it an infinite number of zeros after the decimal point. But this means that every number, without exception, must be infinitely specified to establish its uniqueness. Say we specify every number to 30 decimal places. Well, at the unspecified decimal place 31, we could have the number 0, 1, 2, 3, or 4, all of which could be the number we are trying to define. If we want to use one number uniquely, we simply can't stop listing its decimal places if we wish to ensure we are not confusing it with the numbers on either side of it. Charles say I wrote, when you try to calculate the slope of a tangent line, 0 wrecks your approximation process. As your approximations of the tangent lines get better and better, the points on the curve you use to create the approximations get closer together. This means that the difference in height, y, goes to 0, as does the horizontal line between the points, x. As your approximations get better and better, y, x approaches 0. 0 divided by 0 can equal any number in the universe. Does the slope of the tangent line have any meaning? These troubles would have ended as an interesting footnote but for one thing. These infinities and zeros are the key to understanding nature. The tangent problem and the area problem are actually the same thing. They are both aspects of calculus, a scientific tool far more powerful than anything ever seen before. The problem of 0 divided by 0 is just about the most significant you can get. What is actually meant by this expression? How do you know you are dealing with exactly 0, and not tiny but non-zero numbers, infinitesimals? And what, exactly, is 0? Is it a static mathematical point? Euler's identity says that I plus 1 equals 0. Is that what 0 is? 1 to 1 equals 0. Is that what 0 is? All sinusoidal waves average to 0. So, is that 0? Given that all existents are flowing points, and all flowing points ipso facto have a dimensionality, where, exactly, is a tangent line to such a point, an extended point? Moreover, given that we can never actually guess to any point anyway since any point must have infinite decimal places, calculus must be a process in which the terminus is assumed, and reached ideally rather than in a practical sense. Leibniz said, in any supposed continuous transition, ending in any terminus, it is permissible to institute a general reasoning, in which the final terminus may also be included. All ontological processes terminate in monads. Light speed. The speed of light is the Planck length over the Planck time, c equals Lp, Tp. If c equals 1, Lp equals Lt. In physics, the Planck time, Tp, is the unit of time in the system of natural units known as Planck units. It is the time required for light to travel, in a vacuum, a distance of 1 Planck length. Amplitude and frequency. Changing the amplitude of a wave has no effect on the wave's frequency. Changing the frequency of a wave has no effect on the wave's amplitude. Frequency can be thought of as the interior structure of the wave. Amplitude, on the other hand, helps us to work out the number of waves having that frequency type. Waves are derived from circles. The radius of a circle is equal to the maximum amplitude of the associated wave, and, from the radius, we derive the circle's area using the formula, area equals R2. The frequency of the wave does not change as the area of its underlying circle changes. So, what is changing? What does it mean to change the amplitude of a wave? It means that we are multiplying the wave, that is adding identical waves to it, and the relationship is governed by a square relationship, because of the R2 term. For example, if we double the amplitude of a wave, we are actually producing 4 waves identical to the original wave. If we triple the amplitude, we produce 9 identical waves superimposed on each other. Superimposed waves create a group wave. If we increase the amplitude 4-fold, we produce 16 superimposed waves, and so on. The square of the wave's amplitude gives us the so-called intensity of the wave. Intensity has no effect on frequency, so you can increase it as much as you like and it will make no difference to any process in which the wave's frequency is below a critical threshold required to trigger an action. As in the photoelectric effect, amplitude and intensity are like dials you can turn up for a wave. However, you cannot change the wave's internal structure, its frequency. Frequency and amplitude are independent characteristics of a wave. Amplitude gives us the size of a wave and the frequency how often a cycle passes by a given point. Amplitude, the size of a vibration, determines how loud a sound is. Larger vibrations make a louder sound. This is because more waves are involved. Frequency, the speed of the vibration, determines the pitch of the sound. Higher amplitude light waves carry more photons, so have higher luminosity. They are brighter. Lower amplitude light waves carry fewer photons, so the light is dimmer. The intensity of a beam of light is determined by the number of photons. More photons carry greater intensity, brightness. In fact, the intensity is the number of the photons. The internal energy of a wave is inherent in its frequency. Its external energy, or collective energy, is dictated by its amplitude. The amount of collective energy transported by a wave is, in physics, directly proportional to the square of the amplitude of the wave, E(a)(2). But there is no mention of frequency in this relationship, so it does not tell us about the full energy transportation of the wave. A doubling of the amplitude of the wave provides a quadrupling of the energy transported by the wave. A quadrupling of the amplitude of a wave yields a 16-fold increase. Putting energy into a wave does not change its internal characteristics, frequency, wavelength and speed, only its external feature, its amplitude. Energy put into a wave in effect multiplies the wave, causes superposition of waves of the same kind. Maxwell's classical theory of electromagnetism says that the energy of a light wave depends only on its amplitude, not on its frequency. So, in Maxwell's theory, all waves of the same amplitude, regardless of their frequency, have the same energy. Moreover, in Maxwell's theory, the energy of the electromagnetic wave can be varied continuously. It's not quantized. This highly successful theory provided the background to the conundrum of the photoelectric effect where frequency became critically important, thus contradicting Maxwell's theory. An individual photon is just a flowing point. It has a frequency, wavelength and speed. Its amplitude is always 1. We change the amplitude of a light beam by changing the number of photons in the beam. However, we must always increase the number of waves in a light beam via a square relationship. That is, we must have 4 photons in a beam to get an amplitude of 2. We can regard the area of a circle as its amplitude energy, and its frequency as its internal energy. 2 circles could have the same amplitude energy, but radically different internal frequency energy. This is what controls the photoelectric effect. A sufficient frequency energy, not amplitude energy, is required to trigger the effect. In quantum mechanics, a single photon is said to have a well-defined frequency and energy, E equals hf, but not a well-defined amplitude. In fact, a photon's amplitude is always exactly to 1. The energy of an electromagnetic M wave is proportional to the square of the amplitude of the wave. The greater the amplitude, the more photons the wave carries. For a monochromatic, fixed frequency, M wave, carrying n photons, each of energy hf, increasing the amplitude increases n. A wave of amplitude 1 has 1 photon. A wave of amplitude 2 has 22 equals 4 photons. A wave of amplitude 3 has 32 equals 9 photons, and so on. Frequency is unaffected by change in amplitude. The horror. Why are non-technical people so scared of Euler's formula? Why do they imagine it can't possibly be the answer to existence? It's because they can't sense it, can't feel it, can't have any mystical intuitions about it. They can't tell a story, mythos, about it. They can't pray to it and have a relationship with it. They can't meditate about it. They can't do anything human with it. That's the whole point. It's completely unrelated to the subjective, fallible human condition. It is reached by reason and logic alone. It transcends the human condition. exactly as the ultimate answer must, since the ultimate answer has existed forever, and humans obviously haven't. Stupid people will never believe in anything they don't understand. And how many stupid people can have any understanding at all of Euler's formula? Can you imagine Muslims and Christians having any clue of what Euler's formula is? Forget IQ tests. Just put Euler's formula in front of people, and give them a week to research it, and see if they can tell you even one correct thing about it by the end of the week. Euler's formula is none other than the equation of life and mind, of the soul, and, from the mathematical interaction of souls, we get the holographic material world.